If you want to listen to this episode or any of our episodes ad-free, you can do that now. Head on over to Patreon. Click on the ad-free level. You get all of our bonus shows that you've been hearing so much about. Plus, every single day, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, you can listen to this episode or any of our other episodes at the same time, ad-free, over on Patreon. Hey everyone, this is David. Welcome back behind the velvet rope. Let's just get right into it today. I mean, listen, I don't want to sell us short here. We have had some pretty big names behind the velvet rope. And I don't know if I'm just like a jaded New Yorker that, I don't get excited by speaking to everybody anymore because I've been doing this so long that I'm ready to like drop dead at my computer.
Look at that.
But which could happen. But today, literally, we have a living legend amongst us, an icon, a national treasure of the world. And we have two boys with her who we have to also give some credence to. We have Miss Janice fucking Dickinson. How are you?
Oh, please.
I'm really well, thank you. Thank you. Thank you for having me on your famous show.
Thank Janice. You're being too nice because you're with your two great friends, Alan Nevins and Joey Santos, from the Two Guys from Hollywood podcast. So thank you for being here. Seriously, I meant everything I said. We've had the biggest names, but this is like, okay.
Well, the biggest names really are Alan and Joey, Two Guys from Hollywood.
Oh, yeah.
Let's face it. Tune into their podcast because it's off the chain.
We are going to talk about their podcast.
20 years, so.
No, maybe 30, but you're being nice.
Well, 20 in dog. No, it's the opposite.
We met from 30
in dog years. How does that work?
That would make you like 340.
Oh, whatever.
Iman introduced us.
That's right. We met through
Iman Bowie.
Is that really how you guys met?
Yeah,
Yes.
I was friends with Iman. Janice, of course, has been friends with Iman forever. And then Iman was in town, and she was doing a book signing for one of her books. And this is a long time ago. And she invited me to join. So I went to the party, the book signing party, with her. And then Janice was there, and then she introduced us. And then Janice looked at me and she said, "Hello." I went, "Hi, how are you?" So we started talking, and then one thing led to another, and we just started laughing and carrying on. And then we said, "Let's get out of here."
Because I was
so then we went to the Abbey.
Wait, I was imitating Iman's voice because, of course, darling, you are not in the book, Janice. And I was like, really?
Yeah, like, where am I in the book? And she says, "You're not in it."
You're not in it.
Why were you at the book signing, Janice? Just supporting? That's nice.
I love Iman. And
yeah, they're good friends.
I didn't expect that I was going to meet my true lifelong soulmate in Joey Santos and chef extraordinaire and whatnot. And it was just it's been an amazing ride for the past
20 years.
20 something.
Yeah.
What I love about Joey was I've raised two young children. Now they're 26 and 34. Nathan is a brilliant reality television producer. He's got all these shows greenlit plus a movie.
Savannah's acting.
He's married. My daughter is just gotten herself a juicy movie role, so I'm really proud of Savannah. And Joey has raised my children in a non-homophobic world that I could never ever expected them to come out as just fair, diplomatic, and wonderful as they are.
Yeah.
I love that.
She's an amazing mom, but her kids are
I'm
fantastic.
not kidding.
Yeah.
I love that. Well, no, I mean, I know you guys are really good friends because, listen, we all know how it works in the Hollywood business. Like, I get it. Everyone says everything. So when I was on, and we're going to come back at the end to the Two Guys in Hollywood podcast, but when I was on their show, somehow, I don't know how, I don't know if you guys remember, your name came up, Janice. And Joey was like, "You want Janice on your podcast? We'll like make that happen." Now, of course, I was like, "Thank you, whatever." Do you think I gave this no credence? I'm like, everyone tells me they know this one, they know that one, blah, blah, blah.
Tooth and
We are
nail.
so not those
you got
people.
me on your show.
He totally thought we were pulling a Hollywood fast one on him.
Well, I just didn't think, and then like literally like 3 days later, I get an email being like, okay, so what day do you want Janice? And I'm like, what?
Believe me, when Joey Santos says something, he always delivers, and so does Alan, by the way.
Yeah, I was the one that promised her.
Alan's an
But I brought
incredible.
her.
I told Joey, you got to get her.
You promised, I delivered.
He's an incredible friend. I've been to his house in Italy, which is off the chain. I mean, my God, you can't believe this house sitting on top of a hill. It's got 360-degree views, and it's amazing. We ate Joey's food, of course, which was out of this world.
And I cook pasta every night.
Well, you guys delivered. So you guys know everybody. I eat my words. I'm a loser for ever doubting you could make this happen. So
What, you doubted us? Oh
Never
my God.
again.
And we're
Yeah.
Hollywood? And we're Hollywood?
I mean, like, listen, you've had a great lineup of guests on your own podcast. I was on it. I just didn't think, you would pay it forward and make it all happen. Like, it's hard. It's hard.
That's how we live.
We
You
are
can't.
that way.
We are
like
those
that.
people.
Well, okay, we're going to get to the Two Guys in Hollywood podcast. But first, we have some questions for Janice.
Yes.
We'll help her.
Hit me.
She won't remember.
Hit her.
You can, well, I mean, okay, so the first times, Janice, when you come back your second, third, and fourth time, we don't need to go back over old things again. But I like to always start at the beginning. Well, I'll like make it quick. So, of course, being a New York girl, I love that you're from Brooklyn, right?
Right.
And did you love growing up in Brooklyn? I mean, I know you've been open about your childhood.
I was born in Brooklyn at St. Charles Hospital in Brooklyn Heights. I left Brooklyn when I was 18 months old, and my parents ended up in Hollywood, Florida, of all places. I have two sisters, and growing up in Hollywood was like unbelievable because it was 60s, 70s. 70s, I was in New York supermodeling, but 60s it was crazy. I mean, I had a hippie sister, and I went to all the concerts, Allman Brothers, Jimi Hendrix, Deep Purple, all the concerts in Florida, and I was a surfer girl.
So you were like a total hippie surfer type.
No, I was
Alexis
not a
was more
hippie.
of
I was a
hippie.
rocker.
Yeah, you were the rocker.
I can see that.
Had a
So-
few in my life.
Like who?
Mick Jagger.
Really?
Yes.
Is that a known fact? I don't know.
I'm in his
That's
new
a known
book.
fact.
I'm in his new book. He said he bedded me.
How is Mick Jagger?
Has Mick Jagger in bed? Let's just say it's like every time I looked at his face, it was like it just reminded me of Marianne Faithfull and Bianca Jagger coming into studio on a white horse. Yeah,
Well, didn't you once say it was all potatoes and no meat? No, we had that conversation once because he used to push everything to the side.
no, he pulled it from up front
Oh,
and
however.
padded it. And like when that tour he did as a football player, that was all padded.
Well, all potatoes and no meat could be interpreted in many ways.
Well, they had dinner. She's a
French fries.
vegetarian.
You are, okay, so you're a vegetarian. How did you get into modeling originally? Like how did that happen?
I wanted to be a model ever since I was 9 years old, sitting on the floor of Publix supermarket in Hollywood, Florida, because it was air conditioned. And I used to watch Lauren Hutton sailing across the pages of American Vogue. And I wanted to be inside the photograph. I just wanted to escape my mundane world living in Hollywood. And I wanted to be inside a Richard Avedon or an Irving Penn's photograph. And eventually I got to work with the masters that I idolized ever since I was 9. It's crazy.
So it was always a model for you.
Yeah, but I went to New York and I was not well received from the modeling agents. Eileen Ford was a real pig. She told me I had ethnic looks beginning with the N-word lips. And I was like, are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? I'm going to prove you wrong, lady. So I went over to Wilhelmina, and Wilhelmina said, it's not going to be easy for you with your exotic looks. So I then had to go to, I grabbed a ticket to go to Paris, and I did every single editorial there was, became the darling of Elle magazine, and Helmut Newton's wife. I did like 6 covers of French Elle back to back. Then I started doing French Vogue, and then Italian Vogue, and then Italian Cosmo, and then Italian Bazaar, French Bazaar, German Vogue, Mexican Vogue, Japanese Vogue, I did all the Vogues from all over the world. Then I came back to New York with a big, thick portfolio that looked like a telephone book filled with pictures from everyone, from Versace, from Valentino, from Yves Saint Laurent, Azadine Alaya, all the great, 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 great designers of the world. I became the darling of the runways. And so I had a blast the whole time because I laughed, and I grew up poor, and now I was living in this lavish pop culture world, and I would see people like, Duran Duran in the front row of an Azadine Alaya show. And, it was a rockin' time back in the early 70s when you'd see Bowie in the audience. You'd see Rolling Stones sitting out in the audience, and they were there to see the girls, dressed up in fancy clothes.
Yeah.
Did you ever bed Simon Le Bon or John Taylor?
No, I did not. But I set Simon Le Bon up with his present wife, Yasmin Le Bon. She was this really beautiful Persian girl with honey skin, and everything about her was perfect. And I said, you need to dress up. So I lent her all of my fabulous Azadine Alaya leather clothes at the time. And you want to hook a rock star, you dress in tight leather outfits. That's how you bag a rock star.
That is how you bag a rock star. What about, you have met everyone. Tell me about Sylvester Stallone. I mean, I know he was one of your boys.
One of my paramours. Along with living in New York and working with the most fantastic photographers from all over the world, Irving Penn and Richard Avedon and Barry McKinley and Francesco Scavullo, and the list goes on and on. I worked with everyone. I was always in print. So the movie stars and the rock stars used to see me, and would try to get my phone number from a wild hairdresser who threw far out parties named Aura Gallant. And Aura had this apartment over on the west side that was painted black and neon colors. And you'd see everyone and anyone there, from Margaret Trudeau to Bianca Jagger. You'd see Mick running around these rooms, Jack Nicholson, Warren Beatty. So, these Warren and Jack and Mick, yeah, they were on my speed dial.
Is there anyone, because you've met them all, I mean, you boys have met a lot of people too, who shocked you as just nice, you know what I mean? Or someone that just gave you great advice and you just, you were like, I did not expect anything from that person.
I'd have to say John Bellucci. John Bellucci was a fantastic friend. We never had sex, but you can't hold him for that. He took me to the shows during the week up at Saturday Night Live in the beginning days with Bill Murray and Gilda Radner and all these great stars there, from Steve Martin, and watching everyone from Saturday night get completely loaded. And I partook in the festivities. And then on the Saturday night, they were ready for their skits and their sketches. So it was just, he was wonderful. We took road trips together. We drove all the way to Atlantic City in a Rinna and snorted tons of cocaine, and just he told me to stay away from television because it was poison, in which I didn't listen to his advice, because I eventually had my own TV show and worked on America's Next Top Model. And it was the kind of thing where it was just really interesting, back in those days. Were you there, Alan, in New York?
No, I'm way too young.
Oh, I guess.
I did. I went to
Studio 54.
He's much older than I am.
Studio 54 was fantastic.
I mean, that's what I'm picturing. Was it as great as I'm picturing? Just Studio 54,
Because there was just a freedom there, and it was a safe place. I mean, as strange as that sounds, it was a safe place. Everybody was just
straights
there to
and
have
gays,
fun. Yeah.
just
everybody
being accepted as
and
one. There was nothing
no
going
judgments, nothing.
People were having sex down in the dungeons. I used
On
to
the
go
bar.
down there all the time to watch. It was great.
That's right. We were more voyeuristic.
I took Special K one time, and I was down there looking at everybody on Special K going, oh, I gotta get out of here. I gotta get out of here.
And do you know that Rick James' song Super Freak was about Janice?
Okay, no, I did not.
He's a
very
freaky
sexy
girl.
The kind you won't bring home to mother. Yep.
Yeah. How did that come about?
I called Rick James Prince one night. It was very
He was pissed.
And he got very angry. He started shaking his dreadlocks, and there was glitter everywhere, getting all over my clothes. And I would say, stop that, Prince. And he just really got mad when I said that.
And then what? How does that get to a song? Because that's a great song.
I'm going to be honest. Listen, I've heard so much about meditation, but I really didn't think it was something that would ever work for me. That is until I found the Calm app. Calm helps you feel more at ease from the moment you start. So find somewhere that's comfortable and familiar to you, like your couch or your bed, and tune into Calm. Calm is the #1 mental wellness app, and it gives you the tools that improve the way you feel. You could use Calm for so many different things. You can reduce stress and anxiety through guided meditations. You can improve your focus with curated music tracks. And you can rest and recharge with Calm's imaginative sleep stories. I turn to Calm because, hey, I'm a New Yorker and I have trouble sleeping. What I love about Calm is there's so many different things that they offered for sleep. Stories, sleep soundscapes like rivers and brooks. I also love the music, but Calm can also help you focus, self-improvement, reduce stress. It really is a great app to improve the quality of your life. For listeners of Behind the Velvet Rope, Calm is offering an exclusive offer of 40% off a Calm premium subscription at calm.com/velvetrope. Go to calm.com/velvetrope for 40% off unlimited access to Calm's entire library. That's calm.com/velvetrope.
Because
We
he
started
tried to,
hanging out.
hanging out.
You know,
and
he
then
tried to. He said,
tried to better.
you could become a Mary Jane girl, and I was like, no thanks, I'm a supermodel. I will remain a supermodel. I was offered big movies from Steven Spielberg. I guess he was looking for a wife because what was his wife's name?
Which one?
The
Did he have a
last
couple?
one.
Yeah.
Kate Capshaw?
Kate Capshaw. This was right.
Stevens. I thought you were talking about Rick.
Yeah, this was right before Kate Capshaw did Raiders of the Lost Ark and Indiana Jones movies, and I was up for those parts, but I didn't want to drive out to East Hampton because I said, if you want to meet me, you can come into the city. Listen to my egotism. My ego was off the chain. I was such a narcissist.
Do you have any regrets about that, about not being in those movies?
Of course I do. I was up for Pretty Woman, and I kind of blew that part because I was too nervous to go in and read for the producers. I thought that they should just award me the part.
Yeah, but you were never happy with memorizing lines, remember?
I can't memorize lines.
You. Yeah.
It's like if I can do it now.
Yeah, but then
my mind was so ADD, ADD. I couldn't remember the lines.
You could have had the Julia Roberts career.
Well, Alan, what do you think about that?
That would have been good. We would have been friends with the Julia Roberts girl.
Well,
The Pretty Woman girl.
You would
Pretty
say
Woman
that.
girl.
How do you feel Julia Roberts did then? Did you not want to watch the movie once it came out and became a huge success?
Yeah, I kind of watched it like that. I kind of stared at it like that. It could have been me. It could have been me. I could have been making out with Richard Gere and enjoying myself the whole time.
Could have been a contender.
But then you got over it. What about, so the opposite of like great advice, like Jim Belushi or cool? Who did you meet someone that you were just like, you're a total asshole and I'm let down?
Oh yeah, Julie Andrews. I once met Julie Andrews at UCLA, and she was in this back room, and I was politely waiting my turn in line to get a selfie and at least get an autograph. And she stopped in front of me and she says, "I've had enough, thank you." And I was like, enough of what? I stood in this line to get your autograph politely. She goes, "Well, I'm done. I'm tired." I was like, fuck you, man. How dare you? You could go Sound of Music, Saint Elsewhere.
So Julie Andrews is a bitch.
She's a bitch. She hurt my feelings.
I could kind of see that.
She got snubbed by Mary Poppins.
Right, like the last person.
Getting snubbed by Lisa Rinna.
I like Lisa Rinna.
You do?
Yeah, I do. She said, she did one quote that I didn't quite accept. She says, "I was the first one with the lips." Fat chance, I was the first one with the lips, and mine are real. Mine are not like rubber and all kind of like carved out and reinserted with like, a boob.
I don't see the difference in her. Like, she's had that surgery to reduce them. I don't get it. I don't see it.
I think your daughter is dating Pete Davidson now.
Scott Disick.
Buff.
Scott Disick.
Somebody.
Scott Disick from
Scott Disick.
Kardashians.
Ew. Ew.
Well, yeah. Do you want? Yeah, she's dating. She's 19. Scott's what? Like
I
30
like that
something?
Courtney's dating Travis Barker. That's hot.
You approve of Travis?
I love rockers.
Who was the rocker we took to London with us?
Oh, the hand.
The hand.
He used to just he held drinks so much that he had his
hand was like that.
His hand never released the holding a drink.
Yeah. So
Like,
after he'd have the drink and you take the drink out,
The
the
hand
hand
would
would stay
still
like
be-
that. It
So
was
I
like
It's
would
wrapped
say-
around the glass.
I'd
Yeah.
say, here, meet this person, and the hand would come out.
it was like the claw. Remember that movie, The Claw?
By the way, the opinions of the others on this show are not necessarily shared.
Well, it's true. I mean, he was that guy.
I didn't mention his name, but I've
Yeah.
had my fair share of rockers.
Well, I mean, you had Mick Jagger. That's about.
When we would have a date, if it was me or her, and then I would bring Janice on the first date with me, and then to get her opinion, that she'd kick me under the table if it was no good, and then if it was good, she'd pinch my arm or whatever. And so
I'd be like this, trying to get in front of him, getting a
I do
kiss.
the same thing with her.
Did you ever go on a date with someone Janice was like, this is the best match, and then with someone we know today?
Well, Joey's got a husband who's a total keeper, Andrew. He's a marvelous painter and an
Yeah, he's an amazing
he
artist.
does sculpture and he does everything. He's amazing. Alan's commissioned a piece that you still haven't picked up from him.
It's not quite done. It's been
No, he's
years and
finishing it
years
now.
in the making.
Fantastic. He's very intricate. Andrew, what's his last name?
Han.
Andrew Hahn is a great artist.
Handmade.
Handmade.
I need to check his stuff out
Yeah,
on your
he's a-
Instagram.
Plus, he's really good looking and sweet and kind.
Big dick.
Oh.
These are important things.
I said it.
All meat and no potatoes.
Well, so you approve of Travis Barker for Courtney?
I do. I think he is a big dick. He pounds that snare drum with it.
What about Kim and Kanye? Do we approve of Kanye?
No, I think that's all for show.
Isn't that almost over? or
She's
something?
going out with Van, that CNN correspondent, Van, what's his name?
Yeah,
No.
that's what they say.
He's hot.
Yeah. What about because modeling to me, I mean, you could correct me, takes on, like we have the different eras. So talk to me about like the 80s era of like the supermodel. You were the first.
As far as modeling is going these days, is I've heard two very, very, very sad topics that really made me feel sad. Was that Stella Tennant recently died. Stella Tennant, she was a fantastic Vogue model who Karl Lagerfeld loved. And I just recently heard that Stephanie Seymour's son, who's 24 years old, overdosed. And Stephanie, if you're listening, my heart goes out to you. You're a dear friend of mine, and I just can't imagine the problems you have to face now for the world. So hang in there, girl. Hang in there. I'm praying for you.
Yeah, that's got to be tough.
Because I'm a parent, and it just your heart goes out to any of these mothers that lived through what we lived through with all the rejection and the criticizing and the rejection with what one does when a model is standing in front of the camera.
Yeah, it's not an easy business.
Not.
Plus, it's not a natural thing for a parent to lose a child.
Like
I mean, we're conditioned maybe one day that our parents would die before. But I mean, I've lost a brother and a sister, so I know what my parents went through.
Larry King lost a lot of people.
They're not prepared for that. You never quite get over that. You don't wrap your head around what that is. So it's a tough.
I would agree with that.
To answer your question, the models of the 70s, 80s do not compare to the models of today. The Instagram models that get famous and they put into Vogue, the Kylie Jenners and the Gigi Hadids and the Bella Hadids. I mean, they are very pretty women, but they're not supermodels. I'm sorry. I don't agree with, you see them in advertising and Vogue uses them because they have millions and millions and millions of followers. And, Vogue has a subscription of 800,000, and Kylie Jenner has got 25 million people following her, something like that.
Do you think it's like nepotism, like Kendall Jenner, Gigi Hadid?
Well, even Lisa's daughters are models too, aren't they?
Yes, they are. Delilah Bell.
Not on the level of Gigi and
They're
Bella.
never on the level of the girls from the 70s and the 80s
forget
and the
that.
90s. We were fabulous.
You were.
Supermodels came from. There's no such thing as supermodels anymore.
What we did was we would painstakingly get pinned by Yves Saint Laurent and Karl Lagerfeld, who would fit the clothes on us that we wore in the shows. One time I was pinned so tightly for a Valentino show that prior to the show, I started drinking a bunch of champagne, and it was at the bottom of the stairs in Rome, for anyone out there that knows geography. And I walked to the end of the runway, and it was completely dark after knocking back a couple of beautiful champagne goblets on silver trays. And I walked right off the end of the runway into the lap of Sophia Loren and Marcello Mastroianni. And I just kept walking off the runway, and I did a somersault into their laps. And I was in Sophia Loren's breasts, and I'm going, "Oh, Miss Loren, I'm such a fan." When I came to, and Marcello Mastroianni picked me up and put me back on the runway, smacked me on my ass, and just said,
"You went
bellissima," and it looked staged. But Valentino was so pissed. He was grabbing his hair like this backstage. "You have ruined my show. You have ruined my show forever." Boy, I lost millions of dollars worth of free advertising. I mean, paid advertising from walking off his runway. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the modeling industry. I mean, do you think, like, because, there's a lot of talk, like, the Gigi Hadid, the Kendall Jenner, like, did they buy their way in?
Well, I think that the Vogue bought their way in for trying to get their viewership.
Yeah, they just did their thing, and then Vogue came to them because they're so popular.
Right.
And it's like you said, it's about the numbers. It's the followers.
And now
it's not the preparation for the opportunities.
Right.
It's
Vogue magazine in itself, Anna Winters, now completely, which is, in my opinion, a great thing, because I used to fight for diversity amongst models. I think that, now it's completely African American, and there are barely any white girls in there anymore, and more women of today, which is also a great thing. But to me, when I would pick up a Vogue magazine, when I did at age 9, all the way from that, and I still collect them every month, every magazine from all over the world. They should pay me for reading all these magazines for all these years and collecting them and paying for them. I didn't even get them for free. That you see different types of people, and you don't see really models wearing couture clothes and modeling them. You see Gucci's changed their advertising into like real people that are not that attractive, in my opinion.
Right, like it's more of the everyday person.
Plain Jane, every people.
Yeah, well, the fantasy's gone, and also the aspiration is gone. What you used to dream about, I want to look like that, I want to be like that one day, and no matter ethnicity doesn't matter to play a role. It's the image that was created then. It was meticulously created, and that's gone. Now anybody could be. You could be weigh 418 pounds and be a model.
Yeah, but I think transsexuals, trannies, I think they're the only ones that are doing it right by like still keeping up with the couture and the face. That's why I love RuPaul so much, because there's glamour on that show, and
that's what's missing. I think is the glamour.
Glamour.
Yeah, I would say that's changed.
And also, and there was a style to it. I mean, and you knew how to walk. You knew how to your posture, your demeanor, everything about it was different. Now it's like you're pigeon-toed.
You could
they don't even pose.
It would be fabulous, and it would just be
Well, it was like old Hollywood. They were trained.
Now,
yes, and the lighting has changed, because back in my day, it wasn't technology on the camera. It was back when they used to go into the dark room and develop pictures out of nickel vatting. Nickel was too expensive to use. That's why the technology came to pass in the mid 90s, where everyone could send pictures overnight and or hour by hour, hourly.
Yeah.
Retouch everything on the camera instead of retouching everything in the lab, which is a world of difference if you want to go look at Irving Penn and Richard Avedon and even Guy Bourdin and famous photographers like Sir Norman Parkinson out of London, and Albert Watson, Sir Albert Watson, Scavullo, Arthur Elgort, Patrick de Marchelier. All these pictures that look much different. Although some of these guys are still alive and kicking, like Patrick and Arthur. The other guys have
changed
to the next level.
What about, I mean, is there anyone that's a current new model? Like, do you think Gigi or Kendall are good?
No. I'm just thinking they're not. They have one look. They don't really diversify their movements. They just stand there and get paid millions of dollars.
Well, they're not really models. They're just sitting there for a photo. It's different than being a
Right.
model and walking a runway and, you know.
But they walk like Kendall walks and Gigi walks.
No, they're not fierce walkers. Are you kidding me? Back in my day, there was Pat Cleveland and Iman, who you never wanted to follow on the runway because, you know, I was a clomper. You know, I could clomp and do a couple pirouettes, but not like Pat Cleveland, who was just a feat of. She was like a surfer, surfing down the runway. She was fantastic, and the clothes would move, and she knew how to take a dress or a gown and make it work. You work the fabric, you work the clothes. These models today don't know how to do that.
No.
Gigi and Kendall need to call you for some help.
Oh, at least send me a thank you card for all the money that they're making.
I know where they're going to call her now.
You know what, girls? There's always criticism in this industry, and you better work.
I agree with that. So
you came up, you were great because you were criticized and you had to work, you had to prove it. Nobody gets a free pass, I'm sorry.
You know, there were greats before me like Susie Parker and Lauren Hutton and Dovima and wonderful women from if you look down through history, 40s, 50s, and 60s models, study them. They had the ultimate of ultimate glamour.
Look at Carmen. She's almost 90?
Carmen D'Alessio, she's still
amazing.
modeling.
She's still modeling.
It's changed. Well, let's talk. I call this the self-indulgent part of our chat. Let's talk about, and I'm not just kissing your ass, Janice, because you're sitting in front of me, but being a reality TV connoisseur, I will say this, one of the best reality TV shows to ever exist. 2006 to 2008, the Janice Dickinson modeling agency. Bravo.
Thank you.
I loved that show.
Loved.
I know you, and I watched that show.
The premise of the show was my quest for finding the next Kate Moss, who is also a legend. And I searched high and low. Now, Joey, remember the lines were around the block for casting sessions?
Oh my God, we would do these open calls and literally the lines were around the block. I mean, we did it on Hollywood and Highland, wasn't it?
Hollywood and Highland.
Yeah, it was where the agency was.
We redid a You Wash Doggy and we turned it into a
the JDM,
agency.
yeah.
That was on
JDMA.
That was in WeHo, and all the gays. There was lots of foot traffic all the time. And in fact, I found a couple hot gay men that were superb underwear model for To Exist and Aussie Bomb.
Yeah.
JP Calderon.
JP,
yeah, good for
he
you.
Came out on the show.
He came out.
To your urging. I mean, he was miserable and he was hiding it.
I knew there was something
Janice
up with
walked
him,
him through it, and he
"Can we
came
have
out.
a chat? What's going on with you and your sexuality?" And he was very honest and real and forthcoming and forthright and historic making, on my show, which helped millions of other young men and women come out.
Yeah. It was great. That was a great episode too, and great for his life too. He's never been happier.
Yeah, I mean,
for a long
he's
time.
a hot
Jules
soccer coach.
Now, right, like everyone comes out now. They come in coming out, but right, like he was the hot straight. No, but it's true. He was the hot straight guy from Survivor, and the next thing you know, he's on the Janice Dickinson modeling agency. He was coming out. It was a big deal at the time.
No, it was. Yeah.
My models were polite and they were sincere. I didn't have any assholes on that show except
You wouldn't tolerate it.
Except for
You got rid of somebody.
I never
on that
remember the
show.
names when I worked with them. I don't remember their names now.
It's
You got
fine.
all over somebody for being late on that show and not being professional.
Punctuality
And that you
is
can't-
Yeah, that's key.
Yeah, I mean, there was drama. That you fired some people. You had problems with your business partner, Peter Ham. You got
hands all over the models, and I wouldn't abide by that. I really got him by the throat off camera, and I said, "Listen, you pervert, if you ever put your hands on my models, I will take your throat larynx out."
I remember that day. Yep.
really.
Mm-hmm.
What about, on that note, what about like now? Like, there's this whole, I forgot the guy's name, there's this claim against like Alexander Wang now that.
Ooh, that's tough. Well, I mean, if you're standing in a club and you're a gay man and all of a sudden Alexander Wang Dang Doodle is standing next to you and, he starts groping you, unwarranted groping. It's okay to get touched if you say, okay, touch it. You know, feel me, touch me. No, you know, who doesn't like a nice fanny patting if it's coming from the right person standing in a club? But this guy's down there and he's like, you know, working these poor models. And I think it's about time, like, that these people who rape you and then never admit it, like Bill Cosby raped me and never admitted it. You know, it's like, I think it touches a very funny subject with me when I hear models getting groped and abused. Thank God for the Me Too movement. But you know, it can really alter and change the trajectory of a young innocent boy or girl when they're taken advantage of without consent. It drove me into a world of self-deprecating, self-abuse that, you know, I became a drug addict and an alcoholic to
quiet that.
You know, through 3 different rehabs didn't help me. So I had to work a lot on my sobriety to get to where I am. I mean, I'm completely sober and I'm happy with friends like Joey and Ellen, who's, you know, they're teetotalers, but they never really drink around me. And I appreciate them both for it tremendously.
That's nice of them, because we know the boys like to have a cocktail or two.
I don't know who he's talking about.
No, I mean, I just think, right, like with the whole like Me Too movement and Harvey, like Weinstein, like you would think like this thing with Alexander Wang, like it's almost like I would think there'd be so much of that in the modeling industry. Just, you know, I mean, maybe it's a stereotype.
Hang on. Alan is a world-renowned book publisher. Does it happen in your world? An agent. I mean, agents, do they have casting couches? Like,
well, not in the literary world because they're authors, but I think it still goes on in the, you know, talent world.
Really?
Yeah, but look at the whole Weinstein. That's all about.
Yeah, have you heard stories other than Weinstein, though, of anybody we don't know about?
All sorts of stories.
Come on, name names.
But I mean, but there's two sides. You know, we also live in a world where those predators have always existed. They continue to exist. The great thing is we can lift the veil and see them for who they are. And I think it's important to out them. But it's also important to have a movement of not I, you know?
Not me.
And
not
let
you.
those people know who aren't those people that do that sort of thing. And they should be able to stand up and be proud of the fact that they champion not being the creep.
And I believe,
you know, and it's also the people that are yelling the loudest. If somebody says to you, meet me in my hotel room at midnight to read for a part, I mean, you're off what bus again?
No, exactly.
I mean, come on.
But they do.
But
they do it. But then they
also
complain and they say, I didn't know.
And there was an old line in Hollywood, honey. I'm sorry, but did you take the part? Did you take the part? So there's two sides that we have to be honest about. There are those people that are also looking to screw somebody over. So there's predators on both ends. The ones that are victims,
even women to young men
as well. You know, but under the guise of victims, but they went ahead and they set themselves up for this thing and they took advantage. It happens all the time. So where we're prosecuting one person, the other person has got to take some responsibility for the action too. It's just weird.
I would agree with that.
You already know what you are. Now we're talking about the price. In this case, it's a movie.
You know, it's a funny thing where when I started out modeling, I had such a verbose, in-your-face, kind of aggressive way about myself. Gee, had you hardly noticed?
She's changed.
Yeah. You know, that I didn't really get...
hit like
well,
that.
you were intimidated.
I was.
You were intimidating to those guys. So, and you
thought I had such a big mouth that I would go and report it to my agents immediately. Or, you know, I always said to the models on my show, if you're going out on a go-see, take an adult with you. Make sure that adult doesn't leave you when you go on this go-see, and tell someone where you're going. Always have someone know where you're going with an address and a telephone number of when you get there.
Beverly Hills Hotel at 1 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
But that's part of it. You put it out there. They knew they couldn't screw with you because of your attitude. And that's part of it. Was you go to these things, you have to make it very clear that's not going to happen. Mm-hmm. The reason it happens is they do not make it clear and they're afraid of not getting the movie.
Or maybe I was too verbose. You know, it's like I had these sayings on the Janice Dickinson Modeling Agency show, drop trow. You know,
they did.
That's pretty invasive, but there's no way I ever looked at them when they were changing.
You didn't grope it.
I didn't just sit there.
Right. It was just a saying.
It was a saying. It was funny.
Right.
But but you did the same thing when you were modeling. I remember the spread you did over the crocodile, completely naked.
Well, not completely naked. I had a G-string on.
G-string.
With Peter Beard, those were iconic photographs I did for American Playboy back in 1982. That I was on the back of crocodiles. They anesthetized the crocs, the largest crocodiles on earth, in Kenya, Africa.
Wow.
It was a crocodile village where they emptied the water out of the pond, and they anesthetized the crocodiles, and then they wrapped their snouts with fishing wire, and then once they were asleep, they made these low growls, and they said, okay, the Maasai was telling me, okay, time to walk on crocodile, and I was like, okay. So I got out there after 6 tall Afrikaner beers, and made my way prancing across. I was fearless.
And you have yeah. No, but you have to be. And don't you remember? I remember a couple of instances with the show, with the Janice Dickinson modeling agency, where girls would refuse to take off their top or wear a bikini and this and that. She said, well, because I'm religious. And Janice said, well, then you don't need to be a model. Go be a nun, or go, be an altar boy, or whatever that's required. But this is what's required.
In my day, you have to be a nudist. You can't
just change the industry because of your comfort level. Then don't do that. It doesn't change for your convictions.
I remember one time, Ray, may rest in peace, he put his hands on my waistline. I was standing there naked. He put his hands on my waistline and all the way around my back, and he started grabbing like what little, if not anything, like flab on the back of on top of my buttocks. And I said, if you don't take your fat fingers off my body immediately, I'm going to break the wrists and have them set in like pepper pink plaster, and tell every single person in the industry that you're a big pervert. So take your hands off me. And I don't care if you don't book me anymore. He still booked me, but he knew I was not the one to be groped.
Well, see, and then you set that.
Right.
Talking about you made them realize that you can't mess with me like that.
And that's what, predators and bullies do. Like, once they know you're not the one, they'll just, all right, so not Janice.
They want a vulnerable victim. Right. So they can manipulate you.
Well, it's like anybody looking
totally
with a weak one.
Yeah, of course.
I would agree with that. But yes, Janice Dickinson Modeling Agency, one of the best reality shows of all time.
We had fun times.
I did them all.
You have done them all. Did any of them stand out, like Celebrity Big Brother, Celebrity Rehab, I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here? Did any of them stand out as like miserable?
Had any stand out? Probably the I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here, when I was in the jungle for weeks and weeks and weeks, and practically won the thing. And Joey standing on the tarmac inside it. I was being whisked back to Los Angeles because I had to start the JDMA show, my show. And Joey hands me this box of these huge diamond studs, which were not real, but I thought at the time, oh my God, they're so real. Look at those. He says, these belong to my mother. Here, I want you to have them. You did a good job in the jungle. And I was like, why weren't they real?
Well, she had been dirty and eating ants and crickets and whatever for a month practically. And we had to clean her up because we were getting on the plane in Brisbane. And I said, you're not getting on the plane like that. She says, I don't have anything to wear. I look horrible. I said, no. We went into the first class lounge. She took a shower. She got all dolled up. I bought the earrings. I brought her the earrings. On and we got on the plane.
You got far.
I was sitting across the aisle from us. And
I flirted my way back from Australia all the way back.
Well, you made it really far.
One part was funny though, because at the time you weren't sober yet.
Oh my God!
And they were feeding us champagne on the plane, and the flight attendant, he went coming around with the champagne. And
my husband isn't listening.
Well, we kind of deny the past. The flight was 14 hours, and the flight attendants bring the champagne, and he goes to Janice. No, you've had about enough. And Janice says, "What?" He said, I'm cutting you off.
Give me that bottle.
She said, and then so he walked away, and then Janice got up on the seat and she said, tell that galley queen to get his ass back here with that champagne.
I see nothing wrong with that.
There's 10 more hours left to go on this flight.
Listen, well, speaking of some other maybe sober moments, which no judgment, no shade, let's talk about America's Next Top Model. Like, for all the Gen Zs out there that don't, that think that this is where Janice Dickinson comes from, maybe now they'll hear that, you have a whole life and career way before this. But talk to me about America's Next Top Model. How is that?
It was working on Tyra's show, sitting on that panel for incredibly long hours for them to get their acts together. Don't forget, I was the first, second, third, fourth, fifth, and sixth season on that show. And it was wonderful in the aspects where they flew us to marvelous places all over the world. South Africa, Tokyo, Italy, France. We went a lot of places, but sitting next to Tyra for hours and hours can be daunting because she didn't really like me. And we didn't really get along. And she never did Vogue. I did Vogue. She did Elle. I used to constantly remind her of that. I didn't really treat her like a producer. She kept saying, but I'm the producer of the show. And it was like, oh yeah, right, whatever. So had I realized that the pick of each show was the choice of CoverGirl, which handed out the winners certificates and the winners $100,000 and the chance to have a CoverGirl contract campaign for a year, was chosen by CoverGirl and not the judges. So when I found that out, I was like kind of reticent to even speak up anymore because they weren't taking my valuable words of wisdom and applying it to who should win or who should lose.
Right.
All for show.
It's a showtime. Yeah. It's a show.
When did you find that out? Like, how long? Like, what season?
Last season. Duh. It took me that long to find out.
And then it was just like, wow, I should have just shown up and collected my paycheck. And
well, then the paycheck stayed the same. Each season, any actor in the right mind, and I'm with Screen Actors Guild, would get a bump in their salary, like, a third. I didn't get any bumps. The only bumps I was doing was in the gay bars at the nightclubs.
After work.
For sure.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's well known. Listen, we had, I don't know if you remember any of the models. We had Lisa D'Amato on this show. She's had a lot. We just had her. She's had some things to say about Tyra, Eugenia Washington. So what, and listen, also Jay Manuel, his book, The Wig, the Bitch, the Meltdown. We had him on here.
Jay Manuel. There's a real winner. See, Jay Emanuel was right up Tyra's butt crack. So, if you want to get in with Tyra, you compliment her 24/7, and you just have to be able to put up with that type of woman who only likes gay men. She did not like me. She didn't like other women. She only liked gay men, which you can't blame her for, really. But
they made her look great.
Yes, they made me look great.
So you feel Jay just kissed her ass the whole time. Thanks for tuning in to part 1 of our sit down with icon, the first supermodel, author, reality TV savant, Janice fucking Dickinson. And Joey Santos and Alan Nevins. Love you all. Stay tuned for part 2. We talk more about the Kardashians, America's Next Top Model, the origins of reality TV, where it is today, Housewives, Joey and Alan's great podcast. Listen, it's Janice Dickinson. Like, do we even need to give you a lecture or a list of what we're going to talk about next time? It's Janice Dickinson. That is reason enough to tune in. And we love Joey and we love Alan. Thanks for listening to part 1. Part 2 coming soon. Thanks for listening to yet another episode of Behind the Velvet Rope. Because without you listeners, I would just be a crazy person with voices in my head. And if you like what you hear, subscribe on Apple Podcasts under Behind the Velvet Rope. And when you're done subscribing, feel free to leave a 5-star write-up review, because the write-up reviews actually count. We read each and every one of them. We post the best ones, and the reviews really help our shows keep going. And we really appreciate everything you guys say, especially the positive ones. And if you want to find us online, we're at behindvelvetrope on Instagram. We are at davidyontef on Instagram. We're Behind the Velvet Rope on Apple Podcasts. Or head on over to Patreon, because you know what? There are just some things we can't talk about here. So for our bonus episodes, go to Patreon and type in Behind the Velvet Rope. And if you still aren't sick of me and you want more David, go to Cameo and book me on Cameo. And you can ask me anything there. I'll answer whatever you want. And I have a bargain basement price of $10. Thank you guys. See you soon.